Hi, I'm Paul from the Studio Rats. Today is a fantastic day because Boss have just released their latest version of their ME range, and this is the ME90. Now, the last iteration of this was the ME80, which I reviewed possibly about a year, maybe a year and a half ago. And this is the new updated version using the new technology, which is A.I.R.D. The old ME80 was absolutely fantastic and it sounded great. And the great thing about the ME range is, as opposed to deep diving into various menus in a multi-effects, you've got all of the effects and all of the controls right in front of you. What I'm going to do in today's video is to set up a sound using the ME90 that I would use for gigs. Now, before we start setting up any tones, let me just explain the whole sort of format of this and what's changed between this and the ME80. At the top, we've got the preamp, and you can think of this as your amplifier section of the unit. Next to the preamp section, you've got your EQ effects too. Now, you can either use this as a dedicated EQ, or you can switch in some extra effects that they've given you. And you've got the choice of phaser, trem, boost, delay, or chorus. Next, we've got the compressor and effects one. You can either use this as a compressor, like I would probably tend to do, or you can add some different effects, like we've got defretter, octave, humanizer, and an auto wah. Next, we've got our overdrive section, and because we're using Boss's A.I.R.D technology, we've actually got some of the effects from the higher end range, things like the GT and the GX. Next, we've got our mod section, and you can think of this as like choruses, vibratos, flanges, tremolos, that sort of stuff. And then we've got our delay, and last of all, our reverb. Now, the great thing about this reverb is you don't have to go sort of deep diving into menus. Literally, you've got 3 different choices where you can switch it from a room reverb to a hole to a spring, all with one turn of this control. And then at the other end of the pedal, we've got this expression pedal here, which you can use for a variety of different tasks, things like volume or even wah-wah, to even pitch shift effects, where you can do your whammy type effects. One of the things that really differentiates this between the old ME80 is with the ME90, you can now load in your own IRs. So not only can you use Boss's cab sims, which are dedicated for each of the different amp sims you've got here, but you can load in your own IR for whichever patch you want. And you might notice that I've got a pedal by the side of this. What we've also got in the ME90 is an effects and a return. What we can do with this is to switch it post or pre the preamp section. So for instance, if you've got an overdrive pedal, you can put it before the preamp to get all your drive tones. And also if you want to use it for plugging in a delay or reverb, we can have it post the preamp section. So the reverb or the delay isn't affecting what's going into the front end. Now what I'm going to do is just to switch it out of memory mode, and let me just explain quickly what the difference is between memory and manual. With memory mode, you can store all the different patches onto the pedal board so you can access them as a set. So for instance, if you've got a clean sound, you can have your clean sound on memory number 1, you can go to your lead sound on memory number 2, etc. And then by switching to manual mode, that means that we can use the pedal board like you would with individual pedals. So for instance, I can switch on and off your overdrive, mod and reverb and delays. So as I said, what I'm going to do with this is to set up a sound that I would like to use for a gig. Now what that means is that I would like to use it in manual mode. So I want to use it like I would a pedal board. So first of all, what I'm going to do is to get the amp sound the way that I want it. Now again, because we're using the A.I.R.D technology, we've got all of the X amps that come with the GT1000 and the GX100 and all of those sort of processors. So I'm going to switch it down to my favorite of that range, which is the X Crunch. Now the great thing about the X Crunch is that you can use it for a variety of different tones where you can clean it right up, or you can sort of drive it quite hard and get some great sort of lead tones. So there it is as a clean tone. And there it is as more of a drive tone. Now I'm going to use it as more of a clean tone, or maybe sort of on the verge of breakup, so I can add an overdrive pedal to that when I want more of a lead sort of sound. Now straight out the bat, that sounds great, but let's just bring back the treble just a little bit. Turn up the bass a bit. Now I'd like to add some reverb, so I'm going to switch on the reverb by pushing this button here. And we get this really nice stereo reverb. Now, if I want less of that, I can bring it back and the graphics go from like a small line to a thick line. Now that's the amount of reverb. And then I can take it down to the room setting. Or the spring setting. Now for me personally, I really like the hall setting. I always think Boss do such a great job of compression. So let's put on a compressor by switching on pedal number 1. Next, let's add some delay. Now this is going to come before the reverb. As with all the different effects that are built into the ME90, we've got all these different choices as well that we could have. One of my favorite delays is an Electro Harmonics Memory Man, and that's got modulation in the delay as well. So let's switch it up to the modulate setting. And it just adds that nice bit of modulation to the delays. I'm just going to bring back the effects level just a little bit, just so it's not as overpowering. So there's my basic sound. What I'd like to do is to add some overdrive before the preamp section. Now, as I said earlier, what I can do is to use the overdrive section, which is this bit here of the ME90, or I can plug an overdrive pedal into the effects loop and have it on the preamp section, and then be able to switch in my drive sound before the preamp. Now I can leave that overdrive pedal on and then control the overdrive pedal when I want it on by using the control button here. But I'm going to use it at the moment by switching in and out the effect by using the pedal on the overdrive pedal. what I'd also like to do is have a boost that comes in before the preamp section, so I can use the overdrive section of the ME90. So then I've got 3 different combinations of overdrive flavors, either from pushing this pedal or from pushing this pedal or combining them. What I'd like to be able to do now is to have some modulation that I can switch in and out of the patch. And Boss do such a great job on modulation. What I'd like to have is a Univibe. So I'm going to switch it down to the Uni-V setting here. And I can then switch that in and out as I need it. Now last of all, we've got this expression pedal at the end, and Boss have made this expression pedal larger than the old ME80 unit, so that's a really handy feature. And we can choose between all these different pedal effects. Now, the way that I'd normally do this, obviously you have it on the floor, and by pushing down with your foot, accesses the pedal effects. Now when the pedal effects is off, it acts as a volume pedal. So you can either use it for swells or when you need that extra bit of volume. And by pushing down on the pedal effects, we've got all of these different options here, where we can use it to control the pitch. To your valve settings. For those more unusual wah type effects, or for a wah. Now the setting that I really love on this is this freeze setting. Now the thing we can do with this, if I play a chord, let's put the Univibe in. We've also got a really handy tuner if I hold down the memory manual button. And because Boss have updated it and they're using their latest technology, we can actually buy a Bluetooth adapter for the ME90 and plug it in the back and then control all of the effects from your phone or from your tablet. And also we can plug it into your computer and use Boss Tone Studio. So if you're the sort of guitar player that doesn't want to deep dive into menus and deep dive into different pages and take ages to set up your guitar sounds, the ME90 sounds absolutely fantastic. Anyway, I really hope you guys got something out of this. If you did get something out of it, don't forget to like and subscribe, click on the bell button, and you'll be notified of any future video that comes out from the Studio Rats. I'm Paul, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.